January 11th, 2024, McLean County regular meeting of the McLean County Board to order. We're going to begin number 2 with an invocation by member Beverly Bell, or a moment of silence.
This poem is by Langston Hughes. I, too, sing America. I am the dark brother. They send me to the kitchen to eat. When company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'm at the table. When company comes, nobody dare tells me to leave the kitchen. Besides, they see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am American.
We have Pledge of Allegiance. Kathy Michael, County Clerk, please proceed with roll call.
William John Friedrich,
Present.
Eric Hansen,
Present.
Elizabeth Johnston.
Here.
Randall Knapp. Randall Knapp.
Here.
Val Lehman.
Present.
Adam Reeves.
Present.
Jim Rogal.
Here.
Natalie Roseman Mendoza.
Here.
Susan Schaefer.
Here.
James Solner. Jeff Tompkins. George Wendt. Crystal Abel.
Present.
Jack Abraham.
Present.
Corey Byrne.
Present.
Beverly Bell. Lindsay Bloomfield. Leah Klein.
Present.
Chuck Erickson.
Present.
Catherine Metzger.
Present.
All are present.
All members are present. We have a quorum. We are able to conduct business. We're moving on to number 5, and that's appearances of members of the public and county employees in reference to an agenda item. And before we proceed, I'd like to remind everybody, and a decorum reminder. Before we begin public comment, please be aware that decorum must be maintained at all times throughout the proceedings tonight. This means that board members, interested parties, the public, and the media must conduct themselves with behavior that is calm and polite. Decorum includes treating members of the board, county staff, and others in attendance with civility, recognizing that others may have differing perceptions, and allowing other members and parties to share their views without interruption. The use of vulgar and obscene language will not be tolerated and may result in removal from these proceedings. Signs must be put down. That is decorum also. Thank you very much. We will begin. I am recommending that we have a board rule of 15 minutes for public comments, and I would like to ask that that be stricken and allow all 50 people who have signed up to speak, allow them their 5 minutes unless they are, or excuse me, 3 minutes. 5 minutes, yes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes for any individuals who represent an organization. So beginning with that, we will have the microphone is prepared. It is to my left, probably to your right, and we'll begin with Rebecca. Does anybody object to allowing all signed up to speak? Seeing no objections, we'll proceed with Rebecca Mangels. Does he
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Mangles, and I am a graduate student instructor at ISU. My message tonight is simple. Please do not allow the anti-immigration proposal to pass. I will merely appeal to the benefits of welcoming in immigrants. ISU is a school made up of immigrants, particularly the graduate school. Half of my department is international students. Do you think if we refuse to welcome in migrants from any other state or municipality, as in the wording of the proposal, that we will create an environment where international students are invited to thrive or want to continue existing? You may say, what about the international students? And to that I respond, the strongest nations are the ones that welcome international relations. When Japan cut itself off from the rest of the world by banning international trade and immigration, it weakened and suffered. Finally, I will leave you with this. If you don't believe in taxpayer dollars funding immigration, but you do believe in taxpayer dollars funding bombs which continue to fall on children in Gaza, forcing them to either starve or leave the country, then you believe in actions without consequences. Thank you.
Mark Adams.
Hello, my name is Mark Adams. I come to you as a resident of McLean County and as a concerned Christian and human being. I'm here to respectfully oppose the county board resolution proposed by board member Chuck Erickson. While I understand the concerns regarding the ongoing immigration crisis that our country and state face, I urge you as our elected board to remain loyal to the values and principles that our country was founded on and those of Jesus Christ. Our country was founded by immigrants and our economy historically has thrived off the backs of immigrants from across the world. Furthermore, this resolution comes from the fear of terrorists disguising themselves as immigrants and the perceived threat that they could bring to our community. I am here today to say no to fear and yes to love. Loving thy neighbor, no matter what country they're from and what language they speak. For those in this room, including those on the county board who may identify as Christians, I implore you to hear these verses from the Holy Bible. Exodus 22:21, do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, you are all in one Christ Jesus. Hebrews 13:2, do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. For doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. 1 John 4:18, where God's love is, there is no fear, because God's perfect love drives out fear. It is punishment that makes a person fear, so love is not made perfect in the person who fears. Matthew 22:37 through 39, Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There are in fact over 30 lines in the Bible that are similar in nature regarding the treatment of others, neighbors, refugees, and foreigners. There are 3 statements that I believe summarize my perspective on the issue at hand. Put yourself in their shoes, innocent until proven guilty, and love thy neighbor. By voting yes on this resolution, you are accepting fear over love. Be a beacon of love and not fear. Vote no on this resolution and send a message of love, not fear.
The next individual is Jeffrey Walls, and following that will be Rachel Shively. So Rachel, you be prepared. Jeffrey Walls. Jeffrey Walls. Rachel Shively. Following Rachel will be Jill Blair. So Rachel, welcome.
Good evening. I strongly urge you to vote against the anti-immigrant resolution. All this resolution does is malign and scapegoat immigrants. It does nothing to create a welcoming community, to save taxpayers' money, or to protect public safety. We should welcome anyone who wants to be part of our community. I'm happy to call immigrants my neighbors, whether they come through an official port of entry to get here or not. People come to the US without authorization because it's extremely difficult to come here with authorization. It's disingenuous to suggest that immigrants should wait in line. There are various reasons why undocumented immigrants come here, but an important one for which we are responsible is that US foreign policy has helped create the conditions of violence and poverty that are the root cause of migration for some undocumented people. It's the height of hypocrisy to blame immigrants for coming here without authorization when the US government has had a hand in crises in their countries of origin. The idea that this resolution will save taxpayers in McLean County a significant amount of money is bogus. First of all, undocumented immigrants themselves are taxpayers. They pay sales tax, and many have tax withheld from their paychecks. If they own a house, they pay property taxes. Undocumented immigrants make other contributions to our country besides paying taxes. Many do essential jobs, for example. Furthermore, based on census data, undocumented immigrants made up less than 3% of the US population in 2021. That amounts to about 500 people in McLean County, not a very large number. The resolution states, without any evidence, that undocumented immigrants jeopardize the health and safety of McLean County residents. The National Academy of Sciences reports on research that found that undocumented immigrants are half as likely to be arrested for violent crimes than people born in the US. This resolution mentions drug trafficking. According to the Cato Institute, the vast majority of drug traffickers are US citizens. I welcome new people coming to McLean County. What does it matter that they came here from another state? I want all members of our community, no matter where they were born, to feel welcomed, safe, and to thrive. I urge you to vote against this hateful resolution. Thank you.
Jill Blair. Following Jill will be Molly Ward. Jill, welcome.
Thank you. In 1882, a woman named Matilda Uhlenberg got on a boat. She had a daughter who was just over a year old, and she was 7 months pregnant with another. She got off that boat, came to Chicago, and a month later, my great-grandmother was born. 13 years later, her husband suddenly passed away from a heart attack. Matilda was left penniless with 6 children to raise. She did the best that she could. Her young daughters took jobs. And what ended up happening is a story was written in the Chicago Tribune about the hard times she had fallen on, and the community came together to help her out. Because of the generosity of Americans, I am standing here today. And looking at this board, and not knowing all of your backgrounds, but I'm guessing that every single one of you has a Matilda somewhere in your ancestry. We all need to give thanks that those who came to make a better life for us did not face the kind of conditions that this board will vote on tonight. There was no literacy test that Matilda had to take. There was no income requirement that she had to pass. She didn't have to pay for an expensive visa. She didn't have to wait for years and years to join her husband in this nation. She got on a boat and she came. And Americans said, not only welcome, but we've got you. If you fall on hard times, we are here. If you get sick or if you experience some hardship, we're going to prop you up, because that's what America is about. And that's what I believe McLean County and the community of Bloomington Normal is about. We are caring, we are giving, we are supportive, and a resolution like this sends a message that is the opposite of that. I'm looking at Member Erickson, and again, guessing from your last name, I'm assuming that you've got an ancestor that came over from Sweden at some point, and you should be thankful that they didn't face the conditions that you're proposing here tonight. Thank you.
We have Molly Ward, followed by Diane Howman, and she will have 5 minutes because she is representing the League of Women Voters. So, Molly, welcome.
My name is Molly Ward. I speak to you as a faith leader, a resident of Bloomington, and the daughter of a war refugee. As you consider how you will vote on the proposed Immigration Services Resolution, I suggest to you that the Gospel of Matthew, particularly portions of chapter 25, neatly sums up your obligation tonight. In case you haven't read it recently, I'll share it directly. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand and the goats at the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me." Then he will say to those at his left hand, "You who are accursed, depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not give me clothing. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Board members, you have a choice this evening, a choice between caring for the least of these and not caring for the least of these. A choice between welcoming the stranger and not welcoming the stranger. A choice between compassion and wickedness. Choose carefully, because choices have consequences, and you will be held accountable for yours. And I am not talking about only on Election Day.
Please. Diane Howman, and then Charlotte Alvarez will follow Ms. Howman.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Diana Howman, and I'm here speaking as the president of the League of Women Voters of McLean County. I direct my remarks to the proposed resolution on tonight's agenda concerning immigration services, item 9A. The League of Women Voters of McLean County strongly opposes the resolution on tonight's agenda. Our opposition is based on positions long held by our organization, the first of which is that all persons should receive fair treatment under the law. Whether or not this board agrees with the immigration laws passed by the U.S. Congress or its failure to pass laws, individuals who have not been denied entry into our country deserve to be treated fairly, receiving due process under the system designated by U.S. laws. The League of Women Voters McLean County supports common sense, fair immigration policies that would end the crisis at our border, stop the separation of families, and provide a path to citizenship. We remind the board that immigration policy under our Constitution is made at the national level and falls to Congress to make and amend these laws. Yes, we believe that food, housing, and emergency health care are basic needs, that our federal government has primary responsibility for ensuring those needs are met, and that other government entities should take secondary responsibility. The League also supports federal immigration law that provides an efficient and expeditious system for legal entry of immigrants into the United States. But a failure of our immigration system to be efficient does not absolve us of our responsibility to ensure that people's basic needs are met. We emphasize the word human in the last statement, people like you and like me. Okay? Please consider the following alternatives. Work with faith-based communities and local businesses to solicit support for temporary housing and food if necessary. Meet with our representatives in Springfield and Washington to discuss other solutions and additional state resources. Contact the federal government and apply for funds that are currently available to assist recent arrivals in our country. We respectfully request that you gather community leaders for further discussion and input and take no action on this proposal. In local news, the originator of this resolution made the statement that, quote, the resolution can send a message even if it fails, unquote. Yes, it will send a message, but we ask, is this the message we want sent about our county? We are a better community than we might be inferred from this resolution. We ask that you vote no on tonight's proposed Immigration Services resolution. Thank you.
Charlotte Alvarez, followed by Mike Matika. Charlotte, welcome.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Immigration Project.
I think that would mean 5 minutes then. So
please.
could we reset the clock to 5? Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlotte.
My name is Charlotte Alvarez. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigration Project. We are based here in Normal and serve 86 counties in central and southern Illinois. I'll try to be short, but I'm also a lawyer, so I'll try my best. I'm speaking, and Immigration Project is also speaking, that we are strongly opposed to this ordinance. We, at its core, know that this ordinance does not live up to our values as a society, as a nation, and as a community. It puts a mythical us against a mythical them, and it seeks to deny the basic right of every human on this earth to seek safety and live free of fear of persecution and violence. It ignores completely how it may cause discrimination and harm to the 12,000 immigrants already living in McLean County and their family members. But let's try to set aside our humanity and, if we can, focus on what is in the narrow self-interest of only our native-born U.S. citizen community members. I suspect if we are even considering this ordinance, we need to set aside the humanity first. And I know that we will have several speakers talking to the humanity and the values and how much this goes against those values. But let's say we really look at the narrow, focused interests that have been stated behind this. You say we want a strong tax base and economic prosperity. Well, immigrants in our community have contributed $1.2 billion to the county's GDP and make up almost 8% of the employed labor force, higher than the native-born population. Once recent arrivals get through this period of crisis, have work authorization, and are settled, any community that accepts them will have positive net gain. They will be a tax benefit. Instead of saying, how do we restrict migrants from our communities, we should be saying, how do we accept them in? How do we make a plan that takes advantage of this opportunity and these committed, dedicated people who are willing to work and be part of our society? Communities who accept recent arrivals will win. Communities who reject them will be rejected in turn. We want a safe and secure community. Let's look at the types of services McLean County funds that would be restricted. This proposal would mean that the services that create safety and security in our community cannot be effective. The Children's Advocacy Center and court-appointed special advocates conduct forensic interviews and investigations for children who have been victims of sexual assault. If there is a recent arrival who unfortunately goes through that trauma, do we really want to say that they cannot get those services? What happens to the abuser in that situation who can go scot-free? It is not safe for our community. The sheriff's office needs to be able to have connections and support of our immigrant communities. Public health, we need to be able to support all of our community members with immunizations and public health programs and not be sifting through and rejecting parts of our community. If the only factors you base your decisions on are tax benefit and public safety, this is a bad ordinance and you should say no. If also you have some humanity and really want a welcoming community, you've already said no. I want to believe that I can tell my children that we in McLean County are living in a place where we have a government that serves the interests of all, where we work together to help our fellows during a tough time, and we find a path that's based on reason, compassion, and justice. I really want to teach my children that. Help me do that today. Thank you.
Mike Matika, and followed by Hannah Mesawana. I believe I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, we will correct that later. But Mr. Matika, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, County Board, for taking the time to do this. This is a statement from Not in Our Town, from our leadership committee. McLean County is not an island. Our community traditionally has welcomed people from diverse backgrounds and lands. Immigration is a fundamental American experience that has historically enriched our community. To declare our county off limits to immigrants is not healthy and inimitable to American tradition and federal law. Rather than label or restrict those that come our way, our challenge is how do we ensure they are received, particularly in an emergency situation, with food, shelter, and a caring heart. 28 years ago, Bloomington and Normal posted signs that said, "Not in our town," at the community's entrance. This statement reflects that McLean County does not tolerate discrimination or labeling other people, that we embrace our diversity. Through those years, Not in Our Town, Bloomington Normal, has stood for a community that is open and caring for all humanity. Immigration is now politicized. We can individually express our thoughts on immigration law to our elected representatives. At the same time, the stranger at our door deserves more than harshness. Instead, we should see the common humanity we all share and ensure that all amongst us are properly cared for, whether citizen or immigrant. I'm going to end with a little history lesson. In the 1850s, there was a political movement in this country called the American Party. It was a secretive anti-immigrant political society that gained power. The mayor of Bloomington in 1855 was Franklin Price. One of his favorite activities was to round up a crowd with pickaxes and go to the west side of Bloomington and beat up Irish immigrants who were coming here from the potato famine. There was another gentleman very familiar to this area called Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln looked at the American Party and the Know-Nothings, and he wrote his friend Joshua Speed on August 24th, 1855, about this Know-Nothing movement. And here's what Lincoln had to say about those kind of attitudes. Our progress in degeneracy appears to me to be pretty rapid. As a nation, we begin by declaring that all men are created equal, except Negroes. When the Know-Nothings get control, it will read, all men are created equal except Negroes, foreigners, and Catholics. When it comes to that, I shall prefer emigrating to some country that makes no pretense of loving liberty. Thank you.
Please, decorum, please. Hannah Mesawani, is that correct?
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Mesawani.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Hannah Maswani, and I'm an immigrant. It took me 17 years and $12,000 to become a citizen the right way. I'm here to, as you can guess, stand against this resolution. I have many questions, but if you remember just one, where is the data that supports this resolution? Mr. Erickson accuses the federal government of not enforcing the rule of law re-immigration, yet proposes a resolution that is equally, if not more, unenforceable. Mr. Erickson goes on to allude to the idea that all immigrant men are rapists, and like the esteemed man he is, that he wants to protect girls and women by banning immigrants. Let me share the data. I have citations as well if anyone has questions, that 80% of rape survivors are attacked by people they know. When it comes to minors who are sexually assaulted, the statistics go as high as 93%. What that means is that if, God forbid, an American was to be assaulted, she would be most likely assaulted by a white American man. Therefore, where's the resolution to ban white American men from our county? That sounds ridiculous? It is. just as is this resolution. Charlotte Alvarez spoke to immigrants paying $1.2 billion in our county. That is $11 billion federally. I invite you to go to the Immigration Project, Mr. Erickson, for an I-10 presentation about how we support VAWA survivors. And if you don't know those acronyms, you are not educated enough to speak on this topic. Again, where is the data? I appreciate your protectiveness of our tax dollars. Again, I believe in America. But I also want to know how you're using our current tax dollars to fix our crumbling sidewalks. Perhaps instead of looking at the poltergeist of differently colored passports, you could consider the trust that we, your community, have in you and spend your time to actually improve our lives. I would also like him to refer to the Illinois state budget for 2024. The webinar was recorded yesterday, in which this state has dedicated $42.5 million in grants for local governments. This resolution does not protect our tax money. It leaves as much as $42.5 million on the table that we cannot access. Money that could go to services like sidewalks, like healthcare, that we would all benefit from. So this is cutting one's nose to spite one's face in the name of xenophobia. Again, where is your data that supports this resolution? What services do you know about that are disproportionately going to immigrants? I argue none. We are real, we are here. What are you so afraid of? Learning a new language, seeing somebody wearing something other than chinos? I could continue on that path, but I ask you empirically, feelings, vibes, fears aside, where is your data? I'll wait.
We have Mark Singer and Maria Nala Diaz is after her. So do we have Mark Singer? No, Mark Singer. So, oh, very good, Mark. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. My name's Mark. Shaking. 2 minutes. We had a young lady brought up Matilda. My grandmother is an immigrant. She didn't have the good times. She struggled. It breaks my heart to see what we're going to go through. It really does. The city of Chicago, the suburbs, communities that are surrounding the city of Chicago are struggling. There are migrants looking for help in schools, for shelter, in police stations, in the airport. Is McLean County ready for this? I vote yes. I really do. I vote yes for Chuck Erickson's proposal. Thank you.
Maria Nala Diaz and Willie Halbert, you will be following.
Marianela Diaz. I am immigrant mother. 9 years ago, my husband and I decided to come to United States to protect our family and provide our children a safe place to grow. We were fleeing from persecution from the Venezuelan government and being targeted for our belief. We fled to protect ourselves and, most important, our children. We never asked them, do you want to immigrate? Do you want to leave your house, your toys, your friends? Are you okay with live here and your grandma, your aunt, your uncles? We never asked. We just took a few suitcases and left. In that time, our biggest concern were their health, physical and emotional, getting better education for them, and specifically their safe. Now, thanks God, we have 2 teenagers, healthy, safe, and happy. So I started 8 years ago as bilingual parent liaison for one of the school districts in McLean County, and since then, I have had the opportunity to not just meet and support many Hispanic families from different countries, but also to learn about their history, their culture, and the reason why they are left here and they left their country. And let me know, I'm pretty sure none of them asked the kids to immigrate. So parents, no matter where they are from, do what they think is best for the children to the best of their ability. Most children do not decide to be an immigrant. Therefore, immigrant children in particular should not be harmed by such an ordinance that deny access to health, to assistance for food, housing stability, and education. These immigrant children will be hurt by this ordinance just because their parents make the choice to protect them by fleeing a country in which they were unsafe. As part of the education system, I know that health is an important factor for learning. It is one of the areas that teachers and school teams evaluate to put in place support for student education. My point is, with this action to deny public health for immigrant families, you are not just denying health, you support children. This action denies their right for education. Tonight, as a woman, as an education worker, and as mother, and advocating for our immigrant children, for their health and for their right to be educated, because being an immigrant is not their fault. Thank you.
We are moving to Willie Halbert, followed by Thomas Witt. Ms. Halbert, welcome.
Thank you so much, and good evening to everyone. My name is Willie Holton Halbert. I have beside me my great-granddaughter, Riley Rose Ballou. When we came here, she asked, what's a meeting? I told her we're coming to a meeting, and I told her that's where people come together and they have discussions. Sometimes they agree, and sometimes they agree to disagree. So I brought her intentionally so she can learn how our community and how our system works. So that's why she's here. I come and stand before you to share that I am opposed to this resolution. And specifically, I want to share, if you recall, we pride ourselves in a community that is a welcoming committee. One of the particular examples I like to share, back in January of 2021, many of you will recall the Bloomington City Council overwhelmingly voted to have a welcoming network nonprofit group that prides itself on creating an inclusive environment for immigrants throughout our community, engagement of job training and other initiatives. This passed by a 7-0 vote. This shows you that the feeling and the intimate and the feeling of our community, that they were on tune and on point on how we feel. The immigrant community needs support from all of our community, and especially from our McLean County Board, so all can be without fear that one day that they're going to be separated from their families, denied protection, or to be denied services for a quality of life within our community. Our community has and should continue to have a long-standing commitment to the protection and the expansion of civil rights and human rights of all, and remain opposed to the separation of families of services for any group of people within our community. To agree to such a narrow-minded discriminatory resolution is to restrict services to immigrants is inhumane and unacceptable. I have lived in Bloomington Normal for over 45 wonderful years and have advocated for those who do not have a voice for themselves or who fear retaliation for speaking out. We welcome in a new year, 2024, and it is not the time to offer a note to withhold from one another. Instead, it's a time for us to come together. When we help others, we help ourselves and others. Together we stand, divided we fall, and we do not plan to fall or to fail. Finally, I just want to say that we want to stand together for one another and support each other as a family, as a community, as a group of people. Thank you.
The next individual that will be speaking is Thomas Witt, followed by Ravi Deviri. Mr. Witt. Thomas Witt. Ravi Deviri. After Mr. Deviri will be David Hurst. Mr. Deviri, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I am here representing the Central Illinois chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois.
One moment, 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
You. You should have all received a copy of our statement. I'm happy to read it to you again today. The Central Illinois chapter of the ACLU of Illinois strongly condemns the proposed use of the resolution process within the McLean County Board to cynically score political points and spread meaningless talking points while ignoring the American value of welcoming newcomers to our shores. This proposed resolution is based on a central untruth, which asserts that the federal government is failing to enforce our nation's immigration laws, including vigorous enforcement of the southern border. The so-called crisis being experienced in many communities across the country results from those who've sought to play politics with human lives by busing people, migrants, around the country without notice, without effort to coordinate with the communities where these people are being dropped off. It has not gone unnoticed that this proposed resolution does not criticize those who are using human beings, buses, planes, and yes, our government dollars to score political points, but simply repeats that central untruth about immigration enforcement. It is sad to see an elected official turning their back on the American value of welcoming newcomers and asylum seekers to our country. America is a country which has benefited enormously from generations of newcomers, adding their culture, work ethic, and spirit to our economy and society. Political talking points and sides should not cause us to turn away from that Central American tradition. We urge you to say no. Thank you.
Following, the next individual is David Hurst, followed by Julie Pradine. Prandy, excuse me, Julie Prandy and David, welcome.
Thank you. My name is David Hurst, and I live in District 6 in the town of Normal. I am here to speak out against the proposed ordinance that would block the receipt or use of county taxpayer funds for helping migrants to our community. I ask instead that this county, the largest by area and one of the most prosperous counties in Illinois, consider its role as a crossroads for all kinds of peoples traveling through and into Illinois. Difficult times, locally and globally, are causing people to move due to economic, political, and climatic uncertainty. Instead of closing our county's doors, I implore you to consider what level of care can we provide to people who seek shelter, food, and perhaps a place to start life again. Each person who faces homelessness, whether locally or globally, has a unique story about the forces that compelled them to leave or lose their home. Don't they deserve to be treated as individuals, each with the right to seek a better, safer life? As elected representatives of the county board, I ask you to consider the plight and what might be done to help. I implore you not to bury your head in the sand and push the problem down the road. I ask that you think about measures that would improve the overall quality of life in our county. By becoming more caring and welcoming to people who may become part of our local municipalities, we could actually strengthen our community and reap the benefits of fresh talent. In a study completed by Illinois State University Stevenson Center and supported by Be Welcoming and the Immigration Project, census data, and I know Charlotte mentioned this already, demonstrated that immigrants contributed $1.2 billion to McLean County's GNP. 13.4% of those immigrants in the census were working in healthcare, 7% in education, 11.6% were working in manufacturing. This study clearly demonstrates that immigrants are a value-added complement to our county's population. Many groups are ready to assist you in this process. There are legal services, food and clothing pantries, as well as existing spaces that sit empty and perhaps could become shelters. Please take the leadership role, and many in our county will support your efforts. You can set the example for other counties in Illinois about responsible and compassionate care looks like. or you can get caught up in political brinksmanship, thus putting the lives of thousands of people in peril. In almost every religion, the idea of being kind to the stranger in need is key to the healing of the world. You may not be able to take care of every person who comes off the highway or loses their work or home, but you can be prepared to look at each case as meriting your attention. Failure to do so is to make our county part of the problem rather than the solution. Your compassionate decision here would make a world of difference. Please vote no and plan your humane response to the needs of the humans whose path leads them to McLean County. Thank you.
Julie Prandy, followed by Chad Burke. Julie Prandy. Chad Burke. After Chad is Reverend Sarah Isbell.
Hi, yes, my name is Chad Burke, and thank you for having me here tonight. I didn't expect quite this much of a crowd, but thank you. I am the husband of an immigrant from Hungary, so I understand a lot about immigration. She received her naturalization after about 15 years of coming to this country. Her parents came here with 2 suitcases and 2 children. My grandfather also came here from Germany in the 30s. So my family has a lot of immigrants, plus others that I described. A lot of us here in this room probably have a story similar to that. If not directly that we know, our parents have told us about it, just like we've heard tonight. This is a rough topic. Our community is directly involved. Our children are involved, our jobs, everything. So yeah, emotions are going to be high, and it's totally understandable. So the federal government has let us down. The immigrants are being manipulated. They're being told to come here to seek a better life. Resources are being told that it's going to be here for them. Is it? We don't know. They don't know. So they're packing up and coming here for that dream, because the United States is a dream. It's been that way for 200 years plus. And here they are. They're coming in, and then they get to the border, and they're told one thing, to stay. And then they're met with groups down there that are exploiting them for thousands of dollars to get them across. So they're being exploited by criminals. And I've been there. I've been to Del Rio and seen this firsthand. I know some of you might have also. I've been across the border. I've been down to Nicaragua, Honduras. I've seen this firsthand. I know the life that they're coming from. A Mexican mother's worst fear that in the city and outside in the urban area is that their children will be stolen, abducted by groups. That's one of their worst fears, not just in Mexico, but in Central and South America. So that's why they're escaping. It's not just because of government, it's other groups. However, it's not our fault, and we don't have all the answers. So what we have to do is work with their governments to fix it. It's not happening. It hasn't happened. 50 years, 60 years, 100 years. Bringing them here, is it going to fix it? Chicago, look at it, it's a mess. Go to the airports. Go to the police station. It's not good.
Mr. Burke, can you
Okay.
summarize?
But
quickly?
what's good about what Chuck has brought here is we're talking about it. That's what we need to do as a community. Thank you. Have a good night.
We have Reverend Sarah Isbell, followed by Serena Fish.
Thank you.
Reverend, welcome.
My name is Sarah Isbell. I'm a resident and a pastor here in Bloomington, Illinois, and I thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. We are all immigrants, whether ourselves in our generation or the generations that have gone before us, unless we are from indigenous tribes here on this part of the continent. We are all immigrants, and we have all come seeking the land of the free and the home of the brave. The land of the free, meaning free from fear, free from prejudice. The home of the brave, bravery meaning being able to stand up for what is right. That's what migrants and asylum seekers are seeking too. They're just like us. It's not that trouble doesn't sometimes come with them when they come, but to suggest that trouble, problems, and societal issues are more prevalent among immigrants than among persons who were born here is not only inaccurate, as has already been shared, but frankly, it's racist. They seek the same kind of freedom and courage that all of us do. It's just that their countries of origin don't provide those. As Marianella shared earlier, the things that the makers of this resolution fear, like drugs and violence and crime, are the very things that these very human beings are fleeing from. That is why they need and deserve kindness, compassion, and a chance to prove themselves as contributing members of our society. I myself work for one who was once a refugee, who didn't have a steady income, who had no place to lay his head. I work for a carpenter from Nazareth, who blessed those who showed hospitality, saying, as Mother Molly has reminded us, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And whose commandment, love your neighbor, included as well this injunction, the foreigner who resides among you shall be as a citizen among you. You shall love the foreigner as yourself, for you were once foreigners or aliens in the land of Egypt. That's from Leviticus. Lord, I just invite you to remember this evening who you are and where you have come from and who has created all of us as children of God. Thank you so much.
We have Serena Fish, followed by Juliet Lind. Ms. Fish, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for extending the time. We all appreciate it. The city of Bloomington voted a few years ago to not be a sanctuary city. What they did do was they did a welcoming committee, and they've done immigration projects. I'm reading the resolution. I don't understand why someone says it's racist, because the people that are coming in are coming now from all countries, all over the world, because now it's transformed into a free-for-all. It's easy to get in. Just go and say, I need asylum. But yet they can afford to fly here. They can afford to take expensive trips. But people are coming in to get the free card. They're not just people of God. They're coming in from all different kinds of religion, all regions. We have immigration law. I am glad that this resolution came. I can't tell you, am I yes, am I no? But what I am is it becomes apparent something needs to be fixed. So for that alone, I welcome the fact that you have a whole room of people who all agree something needs to be fixed. One of the things I'm going to suggest is that you take care of the citizens that are here. I've spoke to you guys before about the tent city. You have a tent city a couple of blocks from here that are citizens that have no place to live. Apparently they don't have jobs. I went by the other night, Tuesday night, and they have a big bonfire going, trying to cook, and I'm assuming that is against city regulations. So that's somebody we need to take care of. They're here. Also, I'd like to suggest instead, again, federal government is instead of hiring 80,000 IRS agents, hire 80,000 border agents and move it along. Speed up the process. Get it going. Also, a better way to follow people once they are in.
Ms. Fish, we'll need you to.
Okay. Thank you for the time to speak to you. Anybody that's running, we have a meeting January 25th. West Side Neighbors, love to have you if you want to talk. Thank you.
Juliet Lind, followed by Brian Hastings. Welcome, Juliet.
Thank you. Buenas noches. Good evening. My name is Juliet Lind. I'm a voting citizen and taxpayer in McLean County. I am here to strongly urge you to reject the hateful resolution put forward to deny taxpayer-funded services to migrants sent to McLean County. The purpose of this resolution is not to save taxpayer dollars, it is to generate anti-immigrant sentiment. The suggestion that immigrants are here to drain the public coffers and/or commit crimes is not true. The notion that the people of McLean County should deny their fellow humans basic human rights is abhorrent. The implication that McLean County would be better off without migrants is wrong and offensive. Immigrants become part of and contribute to a thriving community when welcomed with kindness and respect and offered opportunities for employment and education. I'm not here to defend federal immigration law, which is flawed and inhumane. I am here to signal the contradictions of this resolution that make it impossible to enforce and therefore a mere exercise in hateful rhetoric. So I ask, what taxpayer-funded services are to be denied to migrants? Let's take a quick look at the sources commonly identified with the so-called border crisis. Food and shelter. Shall we refuse food to people who are hungry? Would the citizens of McLean County prefer an increase of people living in the streets? Meeting basic needs is essential for people to be able to seek employment and provide for their families, which is what migrants come here to do. Healthcare. So if a person who is sick or injured shows up at a hospital or a clinic, the doctor should turn them away. Tell the patient, nope, no medication for your infection. Nope, I won't set your broken bone. Nope, there will be no treatment for your disease. You deserve pain, sickness, and even death for showing up in this community. Should everyone be denied treatment until they can prove their citizenship or residency? Education. If a child comes to school without the proper credentials, should they be sent away? Do you think we should not educate children? Is the implication that we should ignore child labor laws and put kids to work in fields or factories, which happens all too often? Or do we just send them off to fend for themselves and let them wind up working in fields or factories or worse? Law enforcement. Does the proposed exemption extend to the publicly funded sheriff, the police, immigration and customs enforcement? Is Representative Erickson seeking to defund the policing of migrants? Or is the intention simply that the police not respond to any crime or disturbance involving migrants, whether as perpetrators or victims? Is that what the people of McLean County want? My questions are rhetorical. We hear all the time about labor shortages, businesses are short-staffed, the US population is aging, and the economy requires more people to work in it to support those who no longer can. The number of high school graduates is about to plummet. We must welcome, settle, and educate newly arrived immigrants. Claiming there are too many immigrants is a false flag. If you care about human beings in general and the residents of McLean County in particular, you will oppose this hateful resolution. Better yet, reject this resolution and resolve to invest in a system that ensures everyone's basic needs are met so that they can work, take care of their families, go to school, and contribute to our communities. Thank you.
Brian Hastings, followed by Christina, please. Christina Barnett. Welcome,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hastings.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm the Reverend Brian Hastings, one of the faith leaders in this community. And I want to start out by acknowledging the issues facing us are undeniably complex. How to responsibly care for the community, how to provide compassionate justice for people seeking to live in this country. We have a diversity of perspectives on how best to respond, and that's true for the congregation I serve as a pastor. And yet, within my faith tradition, within the diversity of discerning those best answers, we have a shared calling, as has been articulated so eloquently earlier this evening. We have a shared value to recognize that every person is created in the image of God, with dignity, and with, as we in our country have said, with inalienable rights. A conviction that my neighbor is the person next to me, my neighbor is the person in need, whoever they are, whatever their legal status in the eyes of the state. And that motivates me to be here tonight because I believe that this value is one that we broadly share. This community shares, that it is a value which is intrinsic to building a strong and vibrant community where people look out for each other, not just for themselves and their own. That it is a value which is needed to guide our conversation in seeking to work together for just and wise solutions to these complex problems. And if we lose sight of that in order to make partisan statements, we will be and are diminished as a community. This resolution does not solve the problem of immigration and migration. It does not advance the dialogue on the best ways to respond as a community. What it does is it preemptively takes away options for the county board to respond creatively and collaboratively. It does not move us forward towards either justice or security. It is only a refusal that quite literally seeks to move the problem elsewhere. It treating human beings in the process as the problem. It will not solve the issues in our immigration system or the forces which drive people to seek a better life here in this great country. And so I respectfully ask the county board to vote down this proposal. Have the deeper discussions. Mobilize the community creatively to solve the problems, even with our different perspectives and backgrounds. Discern the responses which embody the values of a community that respects the dignity of each person. Thank you for your time.
We have Christina Barnett, followed by Christopher Bennell. Welcome,
evening.
Christina.
Hi, good evening. I'm here today to urge the board to vote no on this racist resolution that Mr. Erickson has brought forward concerning the influx of migrants to the state of Illinois. This racist resolution is nothing more than a cheap political stunt because Mr. Erickson's opponent, Reagan Deering, in the state rep primary has more financial resources in the upcoming race. Instead of allowing Mr. Erickson to use his position on the county board to fulfill his selfish political aspirations, this time should have been used to address the situation at hand. The U.S. government has spent many years destabilizing Latin American governments for our own economic gain, and now we're being confronted with the human cost for those actions. We cannot ignore what's going on in our state. If we do, the situation is only going to get more dire. As community leaders, I urge you to come up with an intergovernmental solution to ensure anyone seeking refuge in McLean County and central Illinois as a whole are treated with respect, kindness, and dignity that they deserve. Finally, I just want to reiterate my original point. This racist and inflammatory resolution is only set to benefit Mr. Erickson. It's not here to benefit us all, folks. You're being duped. You're being duped. He knows he can't win his upcoming race, so he wants to stir the pot, get us all here. We're here. You got the attention that you wanted. Instead of this, we should be addressing the situation with dynamic solutions, not giving this guy a political show. That's what we're here for. Thank you. Shame on you,
Crit-
Mr.
crit-
Erickson.
Christopher Bamel, followed by Judith Valente, excuse me.
Good evening. I'm here to advocate against the reactionary anti-immigrant resolution presented by Chuck Erickson. It should be understood that from a material foundation, immigration as it is often embarked due to the real dynamics of exploitation of Latin America or global South more generally by the First World or global North. America as it is benefits from this exploitation not only of resources. We have more recently seen in examples of lithium, metals, raw materials or ingredients, but what is often concealed is how America benefits from the abundant sources of labor from the peoples in South America, Africa, West, East, and South Asia, and what the real cost this relation is on these peoples. It makes sense for people to follow their resources where they are not sovereign, and often when they do, they are again met with the exploitation of their labor, of their bodies and minds. America is historically built on the backs and through the wrists of slaves and immigrants, and it is the expression of the founding of our society. You don't need me, a goofy white guy, to tell you that. The immigrant laborers face long hours, intense work, and no guarantee of rights or any minimum wage, any minimum benefits, and still to pay tax. Hardly means of subsistence when compared to American laborers. Yet the labor they perform is labor that is constitutive of our basic infrastructure: construction, manufacturing, service work, agriculture. The list is ongoing. But again, work that is not guaranteed any benefits. This is the motor of our society. This is all to say that immigrants deserve a place and a guarantee of rights, human rights, and that their conditions be changed, that this metaphorical motor does not run at their expense, an expense of the proverbial blood, sweat, tears, and spirit. As a community, we have the capability to modify our surroundings to meet these needs of real people, and it is part of a process of improving our community. And I support the exploration of those capabilities. The grassroots level is often the most transformative expression of community agency, and to actualize what it actually means, what it actually takes to make that advance. Once again, I urge the board to vote against this resolution and its wasted effort to shoehorn a cat feather. Thank you.
Judith Valente, followed by Julie Engelsdorfer.
Good evening and thank you. I am a resident of Normal, Illinois, and I speak as a private citizen. I hardly oppose this proposal. It gets to the heart of what kind of community we want to be. Do we want to be a community driven by fear and broad and largely inaccurate generalizations about a group of people? Or do we want to be a community guided by compassion for fellow human beings who are less fortunate than we are? It is wrong, simply morally wrong, to cast aspersions on a group of people who haven't even arrived within our county borders yet and paint them as somehow being a threat. Anyone who has actually spent time among the migrants coming to this country knows that they are largely families, many being women and children, fleeing violence and fleeing extreme poverty. More than free services, which is what this resolution implies they're coming for, these are people who are seeking work. It would be a more effective use of time for our government officials to figure out ways to put these people legally to work, rather than wringing our hands over the unproven and false threats that they might pose. McLean County is a growing, largely affluent community. It is false to say we don't have enough resources here to accommodate in what, in all likelihood, would be a relatively small number of people who might arrive and who might initially need services. Just last month, many of us sat in our churches and heard the Christmas narrative. Jesus and his family were immigrants, were refugees. They were migrants. Jesus repeatedly asks us in the Gospels to support the poor and the marginalized, the widow, the orphan, the stranger in our midst. As the Reverend aptly said, and it bears repeating, for I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. And he's asked, when did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And Jesus responds, when you did it for one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it for me. Please also read the Gospel of Luke 10:15-27, the parable of the Good Samaritan. You can just about condense the entire message of the Gospels in those two passages. I myself am the proud granddaughter of Italian immigrants. My grandfathers came to this country from Italy while in their 20s to work, and work they did. They contributed as taxpayers for the rest of their lives. And not only that, their children and grandchildren have continued to contribute to our American society. Some became teachers. One became an artist and illustrator, another a physicist, another a medical researcher, and one became a national journalist. When we accept immigrants, we allow them to work and pursue the American dream, as my grandparents did. We are creating citizens and taxpayers of the
Ms.
future.
Valente,
We will also be doing
Thank
that.
you.
We will also be doing the morally right thing. Thank you.
Ms. Engeldorfer, and then Adam Heenan. Julie Engelsdorfer. Adam Heenan. Laura Dick, followed by Lori Kyle, Reverend Lori Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Heenan?
Yes. Yeah, I'm recognized? Okay. Adam Heenan, I'm a Bloomington resident. I found out about this bill yesterday morning, and I felt compelled to speak out against it. I asked the county board members to read the room, please. Read the room. Overwhelming numbers of us have come out because we stand against what is being presented here. This is not us. I will also say to anyone who votes for this that this is recall material. I know that there are a number of unionists and a number of educators in the room. It is on this kind of stuff we are united. So tonight, I ask you to say no to this proposal. Now, if you want to have a proactive thing to do in response, I would ask you to demand more from our largest employers in our region. They do not pay their fair share in our community. So they can contribute, and we all can do what we need to support everyone here.
Dick, please reduce any clapping. Ms. Dick.
Thank you for this opportunity. For the last 20 years, I've presented in front of the county board numerous times in the course of my work. And every time I have presented, I've been so impressed by the county board's sincerity, compassion, and sensitivity to people who have less than you have. When I go to state conferences and they ask, how do you pull together a county-wide effort in transportation? I always say the main reason is the compassion and support of McLean County. I am so proud of being part of this county, and I do not believe this resolution speaks to our generosity. So please vote no.
Lori, please. Lori Kyle, Reverend Lori Kyle, followed by Matthew Toski.
I brought a couple of posters to share, but if it's considered disrespectful and out of decorum, I will not share them. No, don't share? Okay. I may or may not hold them up on my way back to the seat, though. Thank you sincerely for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Lori Kyle, and I am the minister of New Covenant Community Church here in Bloomington, and I also make my home here. I'm sure most of us know by now that Grundy County, a little bit north of here, declared itself a non-sanctuary county just last month and actually posted signs on the interstate saying or warning migrant bus drivers not to stop in their communities. Now, the signs were later taken down, but why were they taken down? Was it a little too unseemly? Was it a little more in your face than they wanted to publicly appear? If we here in McLean County pass this resolution, what stops us from putting up such signs? Kind of putting our money where our mouth is a little bit. This resolution and those signs saying, keep on driving and don't stop here, are one and the same. Mr. Erickson, you initiated this resolution, and you are also the chairperson of the board's Justice Committee. I understand that you surmised that some of these migrants are good people, but you can't be sure that they all are. You likened it to letting a stranger in your home. Two things about that. Your resolution bans any services to incoming migrants without any review of their circumstance or their need, or I'll use your word, their goodness or deservedness. None. And the second thing is, this country was built on welcoming others, allowing strangers into our homeland. I hearken the words, and I paraphrase a little bit, that grace our Lady Liberty. Here shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities frame. Could it possibly be that the author was talking about Bloomington Normal? Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. But I ask you, will she lift her lamp besides this county's door? My friends, this is a moment of truth for us. Are we Statue of Liberty? Or are we Banksy?
Matthew Toski, followed by Harrison Kinsella.
Hello, County Board. I'm Matt Tosco, local CPUSA club member, and I'm here to address the absurd and insulting resolution being brought up today regarding migrants. Let's be real. The first paragraph in the preamble is a no-brainer that then runs into dubious opinion, flat-out lies, calculated misinformation, and dangerous attempts to redefine what this body exists to do, all born of bourgeois electoral partisan posturing with no cohesive substance. I don't like genocide Joe Biden or his administration, in part because, contrary to the sweeping claims written into the resolution, he's deported more people than Trump's record, continues to build Trump's stupid wall, and the whole kids in cages horror that the Dems were decrying under a Repub administration continues much more quietly under their own. While it's true that funds are finite, this resolution twists and turns that into a cudgel against migrants by attempting to render the role of this body exclusively serving lawful U.S. citizen constituents instead of serving the whole of the people who live here, including lots of international students and work visa holders of some of our biggest employers. The preamble is trash, written to dupe this body into validating deceitful and gross propaganda using run-of-the-mill Republican-style misinformation tactics and their stereotypical demonizing of migrants. It would be utterly embarrassing for any legitimate body to pass this kind of entertainment purposes only, kind of Fox News D-grade punditry. No one should even second this crap. Now, let's look at the operative clause, the action of the resolution. It only affects migrants who are sent here by other municipalities. That's pretty specific and has nothing to do with anything in the preamble. Perhaps the author of this trash should have addressed that phenomenon, its roots, who's doing it, its impact on McLean County, since that's what the resolution's about. Instead of wasting everyone's time with what substantively only amounts to a stupid campaign stunt based upon fiery misinformation about the other team's administration and fear-mongering a very specific base that loves that specific flavor of xenophobic fear. All that for one very little man's personal political ambitions. I sincerely hope this elected board has the integrity and respect for our institutions to see right through the filth about to be set before it and appropriately flush it down the toilet. I mean, everybody poops, but not everyone pinches a loaf on the county's table like Chuck Erickson is about to do. He's sitting there prairie dogging right now. Look at him.
Please.
It's gross,
Please.
Chuck. It's gross, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Decorum.
Thank you.
Moving on to Harrison Kinsella, followed by Anthony Crispin. Mr. Kinsella, welcome.
Hello. Good evening, board members. That's just it. Good. How do we even know this evening will be good? I mean, some of my evenings have been good and some have been bad, but that doesn't mean I should eliminate them. Sorry, I'll continue. In case everyone was not aware, immigrants pay a large amount of our state's taxes in the first place, regardless of opinion. Now, if I were to assume that they would not be able to access the county's health services but pay more than non-migrants in taxes, would I be wrong? Just something to think about, unless it's too extreme for your brain to handle. Sorry, I guess at some point I've got to move this speech along. So to give you a summary, immigrants' rights are human rights. We do not really know if everyone at this meeting is good or not, but we let them through the door anyways. And the message you are sending, Chuck, is of xenophobia and elitism, not of whatever you want it to be.
We have the next individual is Anthony Crispin, followed by Camden Blowers. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Anthony Crispin. I am a resident of Bloomington, Illinois, and I'm here today to speak against the resolution to, just kind of mess up immigrants' lives and stuff. It's kind of embarrassing. Anyway, so I just want to say there are problems with immigration right now. We have a flow of migrants coming in. It is an issue. The resolution to that issue is not, let's make their lives worse. I think that would be, you see what I'm saying? Listen, I am the son of an immigrant. My dad came from Mexico. He spent what, 8 years getting his citizenship, and he was on the easy end. He was had expedited permitting on that one. But no, the current immigrant population is some of the hardest working in the entire country. They work for lower wages, lower benefits, if any at all. Let's be clear about that. Imagine your lives, okay? Imagine what you have gone through in your life, all the heartache and the pain and every trial and travail, and then add on, oh yeah, by the way, at any time you could just be deported, your whole life can be upended, and you'll be sent back to the place you were trying to escape from. And let's be real, being an immigrant is not fun, okay? It is not a thing anyone aspires to be. When you're born, you should have a right to be happy, safe, and free where you are. The fact that people are coming to America to pursue opportunities they didn't have where they came from should really say a lot to you. I try not to read off lists, but it's hard sometimes. So yeah, we do have a problem, and I appreciate that there's even opposition to, there's support for this resolution. But the solution is not, let's make their lives harder. Let's see how much worse we can do for them. We are not cowards. We're Americans. We need to act like we're Americans. When there's a challenge, we rise to the occasion. We don't just run away from it and tell people, oh, you're on your own now, sorry. As much as immigrants already are on their own, let's be honest. And I'm just gonna say one thing. I appreciate the astuteness of the board tonight. I appreciate you extending the time, giving your attention. There is one person on the board, though, that has brought this resolution and is the only one not making eye contact with the people talking. And I just want to say, if you're going to bring this to the board, at least stand by it. At least look in the eye of the people that are opposing it. I don't think that's too much to ask. I imagine you'll be on the campaign trail soon, being like, yeah, I stood up to the liberal regime in my county. Please mention them that you didn't look at them for half the time. That would be helpful. Let's be a more welcoming community. I want this to be a community we can be proud of. All right, I don't think that's too hard. There are issues, we can address them outside of just, they have it too easy, immigrants do, because they don't. All right, thank you, have a good night. Please vote no against this resolution.
Camden Blowers, followed by Bruce Blowers. Camden, welcome.
Hello, buenas noches. Salam nachu. Kamwaretan sakpase. Good evening. I'm Bruce Blowers. I'm both. So
Camden is not here?
I'm both. So I
You're
put my
both.
legal name.
All right.
Yeah. So for those of you who can't see me, I'm a male in my 30s. I'm white. I wear glasses, and I'm wearing a very loud red shirt with stripes. We are on Native American land. I think most recently Kickapoo, and I think after this proposal, I think they deserve it back. And otherwise, I would support this measure. I should go back. I think I support this measure so long as we go back to the original land. And if Board Member Erickson would like to lead in deporting himself back to whatever European country he came from, he can join his ancestors there. But short of that, I don't want to appeal to your conscience, Mr. Erickson. I don't think you have any. So let's just try and look at this rationally. I think that this is fear-mongering, and I understand the fear of, immigrants from whatever country they're from. It seems to me to be a fear-mongering tactic, and if we reverse this xenophobic proposal, I would propose that we increase services to immigrants and programs because they're vital to our community, vital to society as it progresses. If you need to pay your bills, you should tax beer nuts and Rivian. And let's see, I just want to say nobody is illegal, and I don't think anybody who's forced to immigrate here should be penalized for it. And in the same way, this proposal began with rule of law, and if we actually look at the rule of law, I don't think that it's any different from the segregationist laws that we used to uphold. And I think it's immoral, the number of people that this country deports from Haiti and Mexico especially. This is racist and ethno-nationalist, and shame on you, Mr. Erickson. Thank you.
Ms. Tessa Summers, followed by Judaine Costello.
Good evening. My name's Tessa Summers. My videographer is my son, Leandro. His dad was a migrant worker, and he comes from a family of immigrants. I'm descended from immigrants. So what did we think when we saw your proposed resolution? On its face, pretty racist, but seek first to understand, right? So I did. I went out to your website, Mr. Erickson. I tried to find your statement on immigration and where this is all coming from, but I didn't find anything. This is a complex issue, right? So let's have a serious discussion about it. Put your data, put your thoughts out there for us to look at and talk about. A serious discussion. Second, is this resolution legally defensible? You're a lawyer. I'm also a lawyer. I have strong doubts that it is. So that means litigation, presumably on the taxpayer's dime, to defend a resolution for which we have no evidence is needed and no evidence it would work. I was raised here in McLean County, but I've lived a lot of different places, including Texas. I moved there 5 minutes from the border to be a teacher. My immigrant students worked harder than any other students in the school. And they displayed a lot of resiliency. They're wonderful, wonderful community members. As an attorney, I moved back to Texas for a while, and then I flew back from here to volunteer in Austin with asylum seekers. I took their credible fear interviews, helped them prepare. They could tell you stories that would put your hair on end. So they do need help. And here in McLean County, where I've moved back because it's a wonderful place to live, we are so lucky to be in a position to offer that help. Let's not miss that opportunity. Thank you.
Judane Costello, followed by Camelia Grunke.
Puedo leerlo en inglés si quieres. ¿Sí? Ok. Sí. Porque no creo que dé tiempo. Good night. My name is Judaine Castillo and I'm immigrant from Venezuela. To say I am an immigrant is to affirm countless feelings with one expression. I am an immigrant is not a label. I am an immigrant is having made a decision that marks our lives forever. I am an immigrant is to leave our land, but not our roots. I am an immigrant is to arrive in a new country and give the best of ourselves. I am an immigrant is to stop investing our time and efforts in the prosperity of our home country in order to offer this time and effort to the prosperity of the new country that opens its doors to us. And to think, where will I go to establish myself as a new immigrant? And you choose Illinois. And say, what a lovely town Bloomington Normal is. And think, it is this city where I want to live. It is this city where I want to work. I want to fall in love, form a family. I want to be part of. But it is sad when wanting doesn't mean being able to. If a door closes in your country, you will know how to open others. But if a door closes in the city you have chosen or that chose you, that makes us ask ourselves, am I not welcome? What did I do wrong? Is my effort to be a good citizen not enough? Do I have to think about going somewhere else and try to be part of a community where I will be accepted? But there is only one response. At least that's what I believe. Bloomington Normal is our home. We already left our home once. We do not want to choose another one because this is the one we love, where our friends are and our chosen family. This is why it is so important to raise our voice to open the eyes of those who do not know that the immigrant is a large part of the motor that makes a society run. Immigrants add, they do not subtract. This is a country of immigrants, a country that has adopted us with open arms. It is our home. This is why we ask no to the resolution that restricts help for immigrants seeking refuge. And thank you to all the people who support us, local and foreign. God bless America. Thank you very much.
Kamala Grunke. Kamala Grunke, please. Followed by Jeff Crable.
Hi, my name is Camila Marinela, and I'm here to speak up for justice, speak out against discrimination and oppression, and speak alongside the people who endlessly work to make our community better. As an immigrant myself, an advocate for immigrant in both my career and my personal life, I'd like to share with you my perspective. When considering the role of local government, what the role of local government has with the people that reside within the county, I ask that we keep three things in mind: who, how, and why. Now, the who might seem simple and almost redundant to address, but until we are in agreement with who the government is serving, we cannot move forward. The role of the local government is to serve all people. This includes everyone, regardless of race, sex, gender, religion, as is the focus of today's discussion, immigration status. If that's not clear enough, let's make it personal. Who the government is serving are moms, dads, kids, nurses, teachers, workers, grandparents, and your neighbors. That's right, your neighbors. No matter how hard we try to belittle people into numbers, data, and money, I'd like to remind you that who we are talking about are not just data on a paper. They are human beings. And from my perspective, some pretty amazing, hardworking, and essential human beings. Immigrants who bust their bodies, laboring day in and day out to bring their families forward. Immigrants who, with torn skin and clothes, come home to love on their families and children. Immigrants who, pardon if I'm being too forward, built the homes we live in, repaired the roads we drive in, and cooked the food we eat when our family rests on a weekend meal at a local ethnic restaurant. Teach our children and many more. These are the people that belong to the all people the government serves. Which brings me to the how. How is government supposed to serve the people? By being a helping hand. Have you ever gotten to a place so desperate, so desolate, so hopeless that you consider traveling by foot, bus, or car through multiple countries in order to find a better future, knowing in the back of your mind that thousands of people die while trying, lose their kids while trying, but do it anyways for the chance of a better life? No? Ever met someone who has? I have. I am. And let me tell you, we aren't looking for a handout. We are looking for a hand up. We are already hardworking. We are already resilient. We are already giving life our 150%. So we're not expecting a hand to keep moving forward, but it sure as heck would be nice to have. Because the reality is, immigrants who have suffered and continue to fight despite every challenge will continue to do so, but you, the local government, has the chance to be a helping hand for these hardworking folks who are, and will continue to make our country better, no matter what. Lastly, why? Why should the local government care enough to be that helping hand? Well, because it pushes all of us forward. Our community would fall apart without the thousands of hardworking immigrants that reside as our neighbors. So why should we help? Well, if because we are human and need help sometimes isn't enough of a reason, then do it.
Conclude.
It's the last part.
Thank you.
I'll end with this. As a local government who aims to serve the people, I ask you, McLean County Board, to serve all people with the helping hand of medical, educational, and humane support for all people, including immigrants. Not solely because it will help our community as a whole, but because it's exactly what has and will continue to bring our country forward. Thank you.
Jeff Crable, followed by J.W. Barnett. Mr. Crable, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for speaking. I've been very moved, and I knew it before, but I know it now that we are a community that supports immigrants. So thank you. My name is Jeff Crable. I reside in Bloomington County Board District 2. I'm speaking against the resolution labeled Immigration Services Resolution. I'm a board member and attorney volunteer for the Immigration Project, but my comments are my own. Unfortunately, this resolution is nothing but a political stunt. Everybody here, 25 News, all the other media, that's the purpose of this resolution. And I think it's disgraceful for someone to try and bolster their campaign at the expense of some of the most vulnerable people of our society. However, the resolution has caused all of us to come out to show our community supports immigrants, and that's a good thing. We are a much better community because of immigrants. The largest cities in our county, Bloomington and Normal, expressly provide that they are welcoming to immigrants. Ironically, I sat in Board Member Erickson's seat when the Bloomington City Council voted to be a welcoming America city. Does this board want to go against that and be seen as anti-immigrant? Please vote against this horrible resolution. Thank you.
J.W. Barnett, followed by Clarissa Kastner. Welcome, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you. I'm a little tall. I'm going to just hold it. Good evening, McLean County Board. My name is J.W. Barnett, and I'm the Associate Pastor at Wesley United Methodist Church. I'm also a reservist in the United States Air Force, so I must disclose that my public comment does not reflect the opinions of the Department of Defense, and it may not reflect the opinion of my church as well. But I'll talk to them on Sunday, and we'll see how that plans out. But this evening, I would like to just offer a point of consideration as you make a decision on the proposed resolution this evening. This point is one of statistics and theology. And I'm happy to announce that I've not heard this point this evening, so it keeps what I say interesting. Not disrespecting how you spoke. Out of the 346 million individuals in this world who speak English, 72.1% are Christians. Out of the 440 million individuals that speak Spanish, 93.7% of them are Christians. This information cited from the World Christian Database. From this perspective, what I am witnessing before us is a resolution that would freeze the hand of our Christian instinct to provide shelter and aid to our brothers and sisters in Christ. And even if none of these human beings are Christians, wouldn't the teachings of the Bible still stand? As it says in Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 33 and 34, the foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Even in the language of this resolution, as it was written, it is aware that there are Christians in this country who are being exploited, victims of circumstances they cannot control. And if there is any evidence that I see of a post-Christian nation here today, is that this resolution is willing to turn its back of our brothers and sisters in Christ who speak Spanish instead of English. With that said, I've seen a lot here this night. It's my first time speaking in public, and as a Christian, I am commanded to pray for my enemies. Mr. Erickson, I do not consider you my enemy, but I just want to wish a blessing of peace upon your mind and heart. I know this is a lot of pressure to be under, but I appreciate the civility that has been an example here tonight. And thank you for giving me my opportunity for speaking in public before a county board. Have a great evening.
Clarissa Kastner, followed by Sarah Breenan.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the time that you've given us as those of McLean County to speak. I come here as a private citizen, as a taxpayer, as a wife and a mother. And I just had to say, you know, I read the resolution and I was very disappointed in it. I used to be a teacher, and if a student would have shown that to me, I said, what are you trying to say? I agree with what many have said, that it doesn't really have teeth in what in how it would be held out. I think it's very impractical. I'm not an expert on where the county funds go or where the help goes, so I was even kind of confused at that. But I got to thinking, if somebody is giving a benefit to the community and now they have to verify somebody's immigration status, which is confusing as it is, I don't know how we would train them to verify the immigration status. It's gonna make their job a lot harder, and it's just gonna, it won't be practical. I'm not an expert in the political or the county part of it, but what I am an expert in is my experience. I first came to McLean County when I attended Illinois Wesleyan on scholarship. There I fell in love with my husband, and he's actually an immigrant. And I've spoken to people and explained the process it takes for an immigrant on a tourist visa to become a legal resident here is years, thousands of dollars. And during that time, when you're going through the process, I think most people don't know, there's times that he couldn't even work for 2 years. We also had to sign a paper that we wouldn't depend on any public aid. So I worked a lot, and even with that, we depended on food banks. And so I appreciate the generosity of people in McLean County. I don't think this resolution speaks for them. And I'm also not an expert on the political process, the political theater. I've heard people come and say they're scared because of what Chicago is. If you go to the airport, if you go to a police the police station, I would encourage you to turn off the news and speak to your neighbor. When I speak to people and I'm able to tell them what the immigration process was for us, they're surprised that how difficult it is and how expensive it is. And we're not here for a free card. I would like to encourage our county board not to entertain this political theater like this. I would rather my tax dollars and our time be spent on things that benefit the people here, rather than, a resolution that really doesn't have teeth, is going to be impractical to put into place, and really is a lot more about hateful and divisive rhetoric. The people in McLean County aren't that, and that's what I know from being with the neighbors that I have. Thank you so much for your time.
We have Sarah Breeden and Caleb Sneeden. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. I had some prepared comments, but I wanted to remind us of a couple things that other commenters have said. Someone asked, what's racist about this? And one of the people who support this put it in a nutshell. He was very sure to tell us that immigration is hard and that his Hungarian immigrants and his German immigrants should be here, even though they only had 2 suitcases. What's racist about this is that it's against the brown folks coming in. So Chuck Erickson wants to send a message. His message has been received loud and clear. He's a fear-mongering, racist xenophobe. This isn't new information. He is simply looking to pander to fellow racists, as he has done many times in the past. We all remember what it was like when Sharon Chung was on this board and how she was treated. Prefacing statements with whereas to formalize his bigotry does not convince anyone that he cares about fairness or the victimization of women and children or the exploitation of migrants, or that he has any genuine interest in addressing any immigration issues at all. Instead, he points out in an interview with WGLT that on principle, he opposes providing services, and that because he can't be sure all of them are good people, we need to move them along. I can't be sure all of you are good people. Thankfully, in our community, we have many compassionate people and organizations subscribing to actual principles who support providing services to those in need. McLean County Board members of principle, those who really care about the health, safety, and welfare of fellow human beings, will vote no on this resolution.
Caleb Sneeden, followed by Walker Wyman.
Hello, my name is Caleb Sneeden, County Board District 9, also a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, but I don't represent them yet. Invocation of law and order and the rule of law is often used as a bludgeon to strike the margins of society, regardless of effect or morality, frequently by odious politicians with nothing else to contribute. This resolution explicitly targets all migrants, meaning local residents will lose benefits they currently pay into, depriving taxpayers of what they are owed in pursuit of the abuse of undocumented people is inhuman. The very premise of this resolution is flawed. Undocumented people are, by all metrics we have, a benefit to our country. They work, raise families, commit fewer crimes than current citizens, and many pay taxes into programs they never benefit from. The obvious solution is to decriminalize the residents here and allow them to be citizens. Opposition to immigration in this way can only be done from ignorance or racism. The primary victims of cartels are undocumented people. People without protection, without recourse in our legal system, oftentimes motivated to migrate due to actions of our own country. This will do nothing to help the women and children Erickson mentions in this resolution. It will only make their lives more difficult. It will turn residents into transients and potential citizens into perpetual refugees. That's only half the time. Wow, okay.
Walker Wyman, followed by Zachary Roy.
I'll go with my nickname, Mark Wyman, and some of you know me. I'm a retired ISU history professor, and in the latter part of my career, I emphasized immigration. Almost all of you, I think, have rather recent immigrants in your family tree. Our county was one of those in the 19th century, Illinois, that welcomed thousands of Germans, especially the 48ers who had tried unsuccessfully to end the rule of a king over the German states, and the Irish fleeing starvation and the potato famine. They were crucial in building our agriculture and industrial base. But they were not always welcome. When the 4th of July fell on a Sunday in 1858, one Illinois newspaper complained that the immigrants' celebrations were so noisy that it showed such people have yet to learn what are the elementary principles of American liberty and good government. This anti-immigrant feeling runs like a river through American history. Ben Franklin complained about all the Germans coming into Philadelphia. And after Chinese had dug through the mountains and blasted so the Union Pacific Railroad could reach the Pacific coast in 1869, Congress then banned further Chinese immigration. And after World War I, we were so worried about Europeans coming here that we cut immigration way down, especially for Jews, who would soon be producing doctors and composers, and for the Southern Italians, who immediately gave us pizza. Now, it's the Mexicans, Venezuelans, Guatemalans, when almost every employer in McLean County is calling out for workers. Why not welcome these people?
We have Zachary Roy and followed by Alex Duffy. Zachary Roy.
Good afternoon. My name is Zach, and I am a resident of McLean County and an Illinois State University student, serving as a member of Illinois State University's student government and a student member of the ISU Academic Senate. I'm here today to comment on the resolution addressing how this body would like to treat migrants. The language in this resolution is both unbecoming of this body and only serves to be used as political fuel and to further divide this community. This resolution tells our migrant community members, many of whom are students at our two major universities, that they are unwelcome. In the face of growing issues with migration, we should aim to respond with compassion, not harmful and performative rhetoric that is political showmanship. Thank you.
Alex Duffy, followed by Kim Miller. Welcome, Mr.
You. Before I begin, just thank you guys so much for giving the residents of the county the opportunity to speak. And I'd just like to thank everyone else that came here, excuse me, came here tonight and voiced their opinion. I know it's tough kind of getting in front of a big crowd speaking, but it was really heartwarming. And, as a young person of the county, it gave me a lot of hope for the future. So with that being said, my name is Alex Duffy, and I'm a current resident of the county, as well as a student here at Illinois State. And I just want to reiterate what other community members have said, and I would like to voice my opposition to tonight's draconian resolution toward migrants. Time and time again, we have seen members of this board prioritize scoring political points over actual governance, and this time it's at the expense of a group of people who is already very vulnerable. This is not us. It's time this body focuses on actual issues at hand instead of throwing meat to their base. The residents of this county aren't paying you guys to play politics. Thank you.
Kim Miller, followed by Carol Anderson. Welcome, Ms. Miller.
Thank you. Okay, it's very evident that there's a great divide here with two views, and both sides are extremely passionate about their beliefs, but there have already been talks by county officials of where McLean County can house buses full of immigrants. I am talking to you because I am in support of the immigrant resolution that is being brought before the McLean County Board. Some might say my comments are prejudiced, racist, bigoted, xenophobic, unkind, unloving, but I don't believe they are. My family understands the legal immigration process because our family adopted 2 children from another country, but we believe in the rule of law. I have attended multiple naturalization ceremonies for friends when they legally become citizens, and it was a very special day for them. I went to one last month even. 8 million people have entered the United States illegally under the Biden administration. This is a humanitarian crisis. I believe the solution to this situation will have to come from the federal government since they are the cause of this crisis. I have a friend who's a humanitarian aid worker at the border, and she was so adversely affected mentally by what she saw. She experienced extreme PTSD. She saw evil like child trafficking, drug trafficking, rapes, murders, human slavery, much at the hand of the evil coyotes and the cartels who are preying on the people that are being encouraged to come here because of the open border policy of the Biden administration. I would like to encourage as many people in this room, there's a lot of passionate people about immigration. I'd like to encourage as many people as possible in this room who are passionate about immigration to go to the border and help with this humanitarian crisis. Also, many people have quoted scripture tonight. I would like to challenge the faith groups represented here tonight to join with other faith groups to meet the needs of immigrants instead of expecting the county to be the provider. Chicago's already in a crisis situation because they declared themselves a sanctuary city. Now the illegal immigrants are spreading into the suburbs, and I feel sure they will be here soon. I was in TJ Maxx just a month ago here in Bloomington, and there was a large white bus outside. When I got in the store, it was full of young men, mostly Hispanic, but some from other nations. No women, no families were in this group. They were buying suitcases and clothes, and I'm certain they were illegals that had come from the border, and I still wonder where they were taken to.
Stop. Decorum, please. Ms. Miller, continue.
I still wonder where they were taken to. McLean County needs to establish their policies about funding illegal immigrants now, because we will soon be dealing with the crisis that was not created by our government, by our county government. McLean County cannot afford the financial burden a large influx of illegal immigrants would place on local taxpayers. I want to challenge faith groups to provide these needs as directed by scriptures. That's directed by scriptures to the church, not to the county. And then the county won't have to use taxpayer funds to do this. I just want to thank the board also for serving in McLean County.
Ms. Carol Anderson, and Maureen Barnes is following. Carol Anderson.
Hi, I'm Carol Anderson. I'm a resident of Bloomington, Illinois. I've lived here for over 60 years. My ancestors are immigrants, and my heart is open to all you wonderful people that have so much to say about opening your hearts for those that are in need. But it's my understanding as we address the board tonight that your responsibility is not a debate about who's worthy and who's not, but more about how to steward the resources that our community has. And very often, I'm sure there are difficult decisions about the best way to do that without targeting people, without insulting someone who perhaps, well, he is running for office, but would any of you have made a similar decision? And just because you're running for a different office, be accused that it's a political stunt? My only appeal to you as a board is just to consider the current situation. Can we absorb what may be coming as a result of the immigration crisis? I believe that's Chuck's heart in taking a look at this and in offering this resolution. And the rest is up to you. Thank you.
Maureen Barnes, followed by Roger Hellman. Maureen. Mr. Hellman, followed by Patricia Braid.
I'm Roger Hellman, and I've been a resident of McLean County for 37 years. And I'd like to thank the board for your service and thank everyone for coming out here and discussing this issue. I'm a Christian, and I try to live out my faith. My response to Chuck Erickson's proposal tonight is based on Matthew 25, which you've already have heard several times. And while biblical memorization is a good exercise, I won't require that tonight. I'll just remind you that the king's response to all of it was, I tell you the truth, whatever you did to the least of my brothers, you did it for me. For decades, our elected officials on the national level have failed in their responsibility to reform our immigration policy, using the issue instead selfishly for their own reelection. For cities across our nation to place barriers to immigrants and asylum seekers is wrong, and it is unjust for our national leaders to do nothing. It will be wrong for you as our elected local leaders to pass this anti-immigration ordinance. I understand the concerns that will need to be addressed as immigrants come into our city, the financial burdens, the housing challenges, the educational requirements, and the medical services restraints. The easy way out will be to adapt this resolution. However, consider that we are a city of immigrants, and our past leaders have never taken the easy way out. What kind of legacy do you wish to leave behind? Do you want to be the board that in 2024, as leadership, we finally made the decision to put a stop to immigrants coming into our county? I think that's not a good legacy, and I don't think that's what any of you intend to do. The challenge will require hard work, and it will require a joint effort. It will require Republicans working with Democrats and Democrats working with Republicans. We are truly blessed in this county and in this country. Now it is a time for us to be a blessing for others. Let us open our hearts and minds to a better life for all people. One final message here is I want to say that it takes courage to stand up for what you believe is right. Courage on both sides. And the fact that you have so many people here standing up for what they believe is right tells me that we have a lot of courage in McLean County. We have courage in McLean County, and we can meet this challenge that's in front of us. Thank you.
Patricia Braid.
I go by Tricia, and my immigrant ancestor disembarked a ship by the name of the Pink Mary in Virginia in 1733. A few generations later, their descendants, still my ancestors, arrived in this area 200 years ago in 1824. How soon it seems that some of us forget our immigrant natures of our own. The proposed McLean County Board Immigration Services resolution on tonight's agenda is flawed at best and betrays devastatingly cruel and bigoted hearts at worst. Many here tonight have spoken to the motives and ethics surrounding a refusal to afford services to certain human beings only because of the method of their arrival in this county. I encourage a no vote on this resolution because I find it abhorrent. I instead will focus my comments now on the merits of the whereas statements arguing for its passage. It's commonly accepted best practice that whereas statements which lead to the conclusion are factual rather than speculative and reflect the authority of the body considering the resolution. In whereas paragraph 1, it matters not that the body believes in the rule of law, it is a fact that they must follow the rule of law as is reflected in the oath of office. In whereas paragraph 2, it is positioned that the federal government has failed to enforce current immigration law. This statement is easily disproven for any of us as current or former elementary school students knows, having completed exercises to identify a statement as true or false. A statement is either entirely true or it must be false. This whereas statement is demonstrably false by a quick use of the device that most of us carry in our hands and looking up the number of border apprehensions made in the most recently available data. Whereas paragraph 3 is particularly reprehensible. The people arriving on buses into communities that are the basis for this fear-mongering in the third whereas statement are indeed being trafficked. But in this case, the trafficker is not a drug cartel, but rather the gentleman governor of the state of Texas. And the final whereas statement, where member Erickson asserts that his and other members are obligated to use county resources, however one cares to measure them, are not in fact obligated to be used only for lawful citizens and constituents, as is evidenced every day. What a ridiculous statement that is. A constituent in this context is defined as voters. Does McLean County then claim that they only use taxpayer dollars on services that benefit those of voting age? Is there somehow a measuring device to determine the worthiness of those using the county roads? For I dare say that every day the Highway Department invests county taxpayer dollars in ways that benefit non-residents or non-constituents. I have no doubt that Sheriff Lane's officers are not going to refuse to render aid to anyone from outside McLean County or refuse to arrest anyone other than a taxpayer voting constituent of McLean County. The utter magnitude of insincerity of this final paragraph is noteworthy truly for its grandstanding and neediness to appeal to the most basic of thoughts and selfish of motivations. It is the most vulgar of choices, drawing lines between who deserves services and who does not based on where someone comes. This is blatant political grandstanding and pandering, a disgusting display of abuse, and the only people wasting tax dollars are those that vote in support of it.
We appreciate all those who are here, as well as those who presented their points of view. We are moving on to the consent agenda, number 6. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? We do have one item that has been removed, 6E1B, and that would be that legislative program has been moved back to the subcommittee, so that one has been taken off the consent agenda. All other things remain on the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please? We have a motion by Member Reeves and a second by Member Klein. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We will move to standing committees, and we will start with the Executive Committee and Vice Chair Elizabeth Johnston. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Executive Committee brings one item for action. That is item 7A1A, request approval of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending Chapter 108, Personnel Policies and Procedures of the McLean County Code, and I so move.
May I have a second? I have a second by Member Abraham. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the request for the ordinance amending Chapter 108, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. The floor is again yours, Vice Chair Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no other items for action. Our general report and the minutes of the unapproved minutes can be found in the packet on page 24 through 27.
Thank you so much. We're moving to the Finance Committee. We have Chairman William Friedrich. Mr. Friedrich, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finance Committee brings item for action this evening. Item 7B1A, request approval of an ordinance by McLean County Board amending Chapter 205, Fees of the McLean County Code, Affordable Housing, and I so move.
I need a second on that, please. I have a second by Member Rogal. Discussion. Member Klein.
Thank you, Chairperson Metzger. I'm the one who moved to table this the first time, and I would ask Mr. Sierra if he had, or whoever has, sorry, Julie, who has edits to the document. I'll read them aloud as they're passed out, but in consultation with the tax assessor's office, it was ascertained that we could create a tiered system based on the number of units. So that is what is being proposed. And the changes read Article 12, applications for reduction in assessed value of affordable rental housing, Chapter 205-50, fees established. Amount, the McLean County Supervisor of Assessment shall, under the authority granted in 35 ILCS 200/15-178 F5, annually assess and collect a fee for processing applications for the McLean County Supervisor of Assessment's Affordable Rental Housing Program, offering a reduction in assessed value of affordable rental housing in accordance with the following schedule. The application fee for a property containing 12 or fewer rental dwelling units shall be $250, and the application fee for properties containing more than 12 rental dwelling units shall be $750.
So the motion, you
I can
are,
make a motion to enter that as the amended text.
very good. I need a second for that. I have a second by Member Lehman. And any additional discussion? We have Member Solner, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Has anyone spoken to our supervisor assessments to see whether this is reasonable or not? If it's going to mean,
This was, yes, sir, this was his proposal.
okay,
And it was the fee is essentially there to provide the resources that they need to do income verification for residents. And he assessed this to be a reasonable solution.
all right, thank you.
Member Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the Finance Committee, when this first came before our committee, the amount was $750, and it was presented to us by the assessor as that was the amount that was needed to cover costs for an application fee. It passed the Finance Committee unanimously, as I recall. We were advised at that hearing that other counties are also charging $750 for the whole thing, including Champaign County. I don't know why the assessor changed his mind that a unit containing 12 or more dwelling units is only a $250 expense, but a unit that has over 12 dwelling units is now a $750 expense. He first told us the cost for processing any application was $750. I will be voting no and asking that we pass the original proposal, which was $750. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, Member Byrne.
Since according to the supervisor of assessments, this amendment goes directly to affordable housing incentives, and since we face such a significant housing shortage and crisis in McLean County, any efforts that we can do to facilitate affordable housing should be supported. I would vote yes on this.
Any other discussion? So we will be voting on the changes that were sent forward for the fees, and they will be less than 12 units will be 250, more than 12 units will be 750, and so that would be for the Chapter 205 of the McLean County Code for Affordable Housing. All in favor of those changes, say aye.
I'd like to have a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, please.
So a yes vote is for the change in fees? Is that right?
Yes, yes would be, a yes vote is in favor of the changes of the amendment of 250 for less than 12 units and more than 12 units, 750. And those would be the fee for processing applications.
William John Friedrich,
No.
Eric Hansen,
Yes.
Elizabeth Johnston,
Yes.
Randall Knapp, Val Lehman,
Yes.
Adam Reeves,
Yes.
Jim Rogal,
Yes.
Natalie Roseman Mendoza,
Yes.
Susan Schaefer, No. James Solner,
No.
Jeff Tompkins, George Wendt, Crystal Abel,
Yes.
Jack Abraham,
Yes.
Corey Byrne,
Yes.
Beverly Bell,
Yes.
Lindsay Bloomfield, Leah Klein,
Yes.
Chuck Erickson,
No.
It is 12 yes, 7 no. That motion passes, and we will move on. The floor is again yours, Member or Chairman Friedrich.
Thank you, Madam. Finance Committee brings no other items for this evening, and our general report can be found in the unimproved minutes on pages 10 through 17.
We do need to back up. We approved the amendment to the change, and I'm sorry, I apologize. We do need to now vote on the entire change, so the amendment passed, so now we need to vote on accepting the chapter, or actually accepting the board amending those, the total fees. So do we want a roll call? We want a roll call vote again. So yes means that we will accept it as it was, as the entire amendment.
William John Friedrich,
Yes.
Eric Hansen,
Yes.
Elizabeth Johnston,
Yes.
Randall Knapp, Val Lehman,
Yes.
Adam Reeves, Jim Rogal,
Yes.
Natalie Roseman Mendoza.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Thank you. Susan Schaefer,
Yes.
James Solner,
Yes.
Jeff Tompkins, George Wendt, Crystal Abel,
Yes.
Jack Abraham,
Yes.
Corey Byrne,
Yes.
Beverly Bell,
Yes.
Lindsay Bloomfield, Leah Klein,
Yes.
Chuck Erickson.
No.
Okay. So I have 15, 17 to 2. 17 yes, 2 no. That motion passes. And I'm sorry, I'm going to give the floor back to you and let you finish, Chairman Friedrich.
Repeat again. We have no other items to bring before the board. Our general report can be found on pages 10 through 17 in the unapproved minutes, and I yield back.
Thank you so much. We're back. We are at 7C, and that's the Health Committee and Chairman Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Health Committee has no items for action today, and our minutes can be found in the unapproved minutes packet. Thank you.
7D, that's Justice Committee, Chairman Chuck Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Justice Committee brings 2 items for action. The first item is item 7D1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2023 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0001, and I so move.
I need a second. I have a second by Member Tompkins. Any discussion? All in favor of the emergency appropriation for 2023 for Fund 0001, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The floor is again yours, Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Justice Committee brings item 7D1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2024 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0001, and I so move.
Second. We have a second by Member Abraham. Any discussion? All in favor of the emergency appropriation for fiscal year 2024 for Fund 0001, say. Opposed? That motion passes. The floor is again yours, Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Justice Committee brings no other items for action. Our general report can be found in the unapproved minutes on pages 6 through 9. Thank you.
7E, and that's Property Committee, and we have Chair Val Lehman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Property Committee has no items to be presented for action this evening. The general report can be found in pages number 21 to 23 of the unapproved minutes packet. Thank you.
7F, and that's Land Use and Development, and that would be Chair Leah Klein.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairperson. The Land Use and Development Committee brings no items for action this evening, and as we did not meet this month, we do not have any minutes in the general report, but I'm of course happy to answer any questions.
7G, Transportation, Chairman Rogal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Transportation Committee brings one item before the board tonight for action. 7G1A, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Bloomington and McLean County to perform specific maintenance items on city streets and county roads, and I so move.
I need a second. I have a second by Vice Chair Johnston. Any discussion? All in favor of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Bloomington and McLean County on maintenance items for streets and county roads, say aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We now will move to 8, and that's appearances of the public county employees on items that are not, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Ms. Rogal, I am jumping very quickly. I apologize.
That's fine. It's been a long night. The Transportation Committee has no other items for action. Our general report can be found on pages 2 through 4 of the unapproved minutes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Taylor, we're at 7H.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no items to be presented for action this evening, but I do have one item to present for information. All of the board members should have received in your box this document entitled Broadband Ready. As you all are aware, and I'd like the gallery to also be aware, McLean County is very invested in making sure to every extent possible that McLean County citizens have access to affordable and reliable internet. And there is a Broadband Ready regional engagement session that also provides free lunch to be held on January 16th from 11 to 1 p.m. And that will be held at Milner Library in Normal, Illinois at 201 North School Street. Again, lunch is provided, and you will be discussing updates on digital equity, providing insights on state digital equity projects. There will be a regional focus, a deep dive into local findings and initiatives. There will be collaborative discussions so that you can share your perspectives on regional digital advancements or gaps and needs. There will be discussions on this Broadband Ready project and how that project and navigator roles will be implemented. And then we will also be planning ahead to the spring convention in 2024 so that McLean County citizens' needs, expectations, desires are heard at that spring convention. So please attend this important event if you are able.
I believe that's on the 6th floor of the library. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. We are the leader, the county leader on this statewide project, so it is important. Also, it is there's a great focus on our rural community as well as our urban area. So certainly would appreciate as much attendance as possible. We have number 8 now. Appearances by the members of the public and county employees in reference to an item not on the agenda. And I have one individual who has asked to speak, and that is Chad Burke. Mr. Burke. I don't see Mr. Burke here, so that will move us to number 9, and that's other business and communication. 9A, and that's a request approval of the McLean County Board Immigration Services Resolution, and Chairman Erickson.
Do you want me to make a motion first, or what do you want me to do?
I believe we need to put it on the floor before we can have
I'm
discussion.
making a motion.
Yes.
Thank you.
I need a second to that. We have a second by Member Wendt. So we have a motion and a second, and we will now have discussion. Member Byrne.
So first of all, thank you to all those who came out and spoke. We hear you. We appreciate your commentary. By my informal count, I showed a roughly 7-1 against in comment towards this resolution. 6 people spoke from personal experience with immigration. 6 people cited historical examples. 7 people cited economic examples. 5 people cited religious justifications, 10 people suggested moral justifications, 4 for legal, and 4 for politics. This is not a good resolution. This is not a good deal for the taxpayers. This is not good for our county. There's nothing good about this. I'll be voting no. To those who have come to McLean County from other countries, I would like to say, nos alegremos de que usted está aquí. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As many of you know, I wear many hats. And as Chair of the Health Committee, I am the County Board's representative on the Board of Health. And conversely, I am the Board of Health's representative on the County Board. Last night, we had a Board of Health meeting, and there was discussion regarding this resolution. The Board of Health determined that there were 2 points they asked me to make. 1, as a certified local health department in the state of Illinois, we are mandated to provide services. Any services where tax funding is used is to supplement grant funding from the state in order to comply with their mandates. There are federally funded programs to provide services for the uninsured and underinsured, so we must follow their eligibility guidance. Number 2, our mission, meaning the Board of Health's mission and the Health Department, is to protect and promote health. Our work is to protect anyone who lives, works, plays in, or visits McLean County and promote health equity. We do not base eligibility for services on, nor do we ask about citizenship status. Thank you.
Member Abel.
Thank you. I also want to echo what some of the other members have said in thanking everyone who came out to speak today. I know it is very difficult to come up and look eye to eye with somebody or a group of people who are actively working against you, and that takes a lot of courage and bravery, and I commend everyone who did that today. I could say a whole lot about this, but I'm going to stick to some statistics that I heard or that I know regarding the economic status of Illinois and our aging population. Some of the speakers tonight were worried about how much money we have to provide services in the first place and wanting them to go to lawful citizens. Well, we have a really big reality check that we need to come to as a state regarding our aging population and the fact that from 2000 to 2020, the retiree population in Illinois went from about 2 million people to 3 million people and constituted 22% of our population. The Illinois Department of Aging has come out with a report that says by 2030, the number of retirees is going to increase by another 600,000 to 3.6 million people, and retirees, which is generally non-working people, are going to be 25% of the population. The Illinois Department of Aging has said that immigration is the solution to keeping Illinois on stable economic footing. We need them here to pay taxes, to keep our services that we're worried about going and funded. It would be an extreme disadvantage for this county or any county in Illinois to pass any resolution or ordinance that prohibits or makes it harder for residents and immigrants to come and establish residency in Illinois, where they can then become the income tax paying citizens that everyone wants them to be, in addition to the sales tax and other taxes that they already pay, regardless of whether they have income or not. I think that this resolution goes far beyond anything that the county should be considering right now and would be extremely detrimental to the economic health of our county and state. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Member Abraham.
When I first read this resolution, I was reminded of something from my past life. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and this reminded me of someone that I met during basic training. This individual was dedicated, intelligent, and strongly displayed the Army values. He also was not a citizen. This individual immigrated here from Mexico and joined the military so he could get a citizenship. I'm not sure what the status of his citizenship is now. However, that is the reason why he joined the military. It hurts my heart and it hurts my soul to hear my colleagues on this board argue in favor of a resolution which would disappoint him. I'm disgusted by the actions of some of my colleagues. This resolution is a gross display of power and serves to send a nasty message to our community, a nasty hatred message. This board has continually disenfranchised our community through its actions, whether this be denying remedies to public comment or denying the rights of migrants. I'm proud to be on this board and serve my community, and it's disheartening to see this board and the people of McLean County used to advance political aspirations. McLean County has maintained a welcoming environment to all. This resolution would put our community back countless years. As a county, we must move forward and leave these repressive ideals behind us. This is why I'm not voting in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Member Solner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm one of 6 board members that represents rural McLean County. I'm concerned about the small towns along I-74, I-55, I-39. For a practical matter, I guess, my concern is if a bus stops in Leroy or stops in Hayworth or stops in Downs, the small towns do not have the resources now to deal with that kind of influx of people. I know that there's supposedly state funding available. I'm not sure how long that would take. I spoke to administration earlier this week, and she said that our emergency management agency would be involved if it meant blankets or food or whatever. They'd help find shelter, temporarily. So my concern again is of the finances of the small towns. I don't think, again, that we had to, or we didn't have to, but we helped out the small towns with water resources through the ARPA funds and sewage issues or whatever. So small towns are hurting. And so I'm not sure if, again, whether they can handle this. So my concern is mainly where the money's going to come from. So That's kind of where my concern. I'm not worried about Bloomington Normal. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not worried, but I think that they can handle it financially a lot better than some of the small towns can. So anyhow, that's my concern. Thanks.
Member Went.
Yes. This resolution is basically, hopefully, to send a message that with what's going on in Illinois and the nation, with these buses around and dropping off people in these different communities, we want to discourage that. And I think that sending this message will discourage it. And here's the problem that we face. And I listened to everybody tonight. It was kind of interesting. They lumped all the immigrants together. Well, there's two categories of immigrants that we have now. We have the illegal immigrants who committed a crime coming into the country. And then we have the legal immigrants that went through the proper process, which most of our relatives in the past had to go through. The requirements at Ellis Island were pretty tough. In fact, if you were sick, they held you there until you got well. And if you didn't get well, they sent you back to your country. So we face
Decorum, please.
We face a very difficult problem now. If we get a large number of these illegal aliens into this county, it puts our employers at risk because you cannot hire somebody that is here illegally. And if you do, you face some federal charges. Now, on the other hand, it's very hard for the employers to determine whether a person is legal or not legal. And they may end up inadvertently hiring somebody that's illegal and then get that company in trouble. So it faces lots of different problems if we get a large number dumped. And I think this is what this resolution will do. At least it will send a message to these people that are delivering people all over the state, removing them from Chicago to alleviate Chicago. And I agree with Jim when we talk about the small towns. You know, if a busload of 60 or 70 people are dropped off in one of these smaller towns, what are they going to do with them? So I think that this is the main reason and this has nothing to do with their race or color or, whatsoever. It has only to do with the situation that we're facing now. And it is desperate. Thank you.
Member Bell.
Monday, we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. And he died because he was trying to make things better in this world. It really saddens me to sit next to my colleague and say, you can't tell. You can tell by the color of their skin. I was over there when the Berlin Wall went down, and the same thing happened to those East Berlins. They were prejudiced. They were treated like dirt. How dare you sit here a day that we're getting ready to celebrate a man being killed because he was trying to free his people. I will be voting.
Member Knapp.
I too support Martin Luther King. He was a man. He was
Point
a
of
religious-
order, parliamentary procedure, please. The floor is Mr. Knapp's. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just kept talking. But I was commenting that I too appreciate Dr. King and his comments of love. My comment regarding the resolution is I think it's a big issue. It's such a large issue. I think it needs to be elevated to the state and federal government. I don't think we have the resources here. However, by making a resolution, I don't see how it's going to fix the problem. There's definitely enough information here that was discussed tonight. But I think the resources available to address those problems are beyond the scope of county government. Thank you.
We'll do second round in just a moment. I do have Vice Chair Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reflect on this statement from the Department of Health. They are not the only department in the county that has mandates to respond to situations. And so this resolution really would attempt to tie their hands when they have larger offices to answer to. And so I will be voting no. And with the approval of the board, I would like to call the motion.
We have called a question. Is there any objection to call the question?
Point of information, Madam Chairman. I had a question for our state's attorney, but I didn't really want to ask it out. Is there a mechanism to ask that question?
Just a moment. Once he returns, we will be voting because there was a call to question that is not a debatable situation so we will be voting when Member Tompkins returns.
Point of order.
Yes?
Is a call to question not voted on? I don't recall.
No, it is not.
So there'll be no more, anyone else allowed to speak?
We could potentially allow Member Tompkins because he had a question. Other than that, that would be all.
Okay, well, that wasn't the advice I was given this afternoon.
Madam Chairwoman? Madam Chairwoman, when we get to the point of the vote, I'd like to have a roll call vote if possible.
Very good.
Thank you.
Call to question. I was just corrected. It is a 2/3 vote. So we can have call to question. We did have a call to question, so we will have I think we probably, in order to have a 2/3 vote, we better take a roll call. Member Tompkins, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, so we'd be voting to move it forward? I'm
We
sorry.
move to vote and stop all additional discussion. All right, very good. Please, Ms. Michael, roll call vote on question.
William John Friedrich.
Yes means we will move to vote.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Eric Hansen.
Yes.
Elizabeth Johnston. Yes. Randall Knapp. Pardon?
Sorry. Can we back up a second?
This is to vote to end discussion. End discussion. Your vote is yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Val Lehman.
Yes.
Adam Reeves. Yes. Jim Rogal.
Yes.
Natalie Roseman Mendoza.
Yes.
Susan Schaefer.
Yes.
James Solner.
Yes.
Jeff Tompkins. Yes. George Wendt. George Wendt.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you. Crystal Abel.
Yes.
Jack Abraham.
Yes.
Corey Byrne.
Yes.
Beverly Bell.
Yes.
Lindsay Bloomfield. Yes. Leah Klein.
Yes.
Chuck Erickson.
No.
You voting? Okay, so two no,
18 to 2.
2 nays.
18 to 2, that motion,
17 to 2, if I'm not
excuse
wrong.
me, 17 to 2. So it does pass by 2/3 majority. Our next vote will be, of yes vote would be to approve the Immigration Services Resolution. A no vote is to not approve that. And we did have a request for a roll call vote, and please proceed, Ms. Michael.
William John Friedrich,
Yes.
Eric Hansen,
No.
Elizabeth Johnston,
No.
Randall Knapp, Val Lehman,
No.
Adam Reeves, Jim Rogal,
No.
Natalie Roseman Mendoza,
No.
Susan Schaefer,
No.
James Solner, Jeff Tompkins,
Yes.
George Wendt,
Yes.
Crystal Abel,
No.
Jack Abraham,
No.
Corey Byrne,
No.
Beverly Bell,
No.
Lindsay Bloomfield, Leah Klein,
No.
Chuck Erickson.
Yes.
Are you voting? Yes, I'm voting. Catherine Metzger,
No. Seven yeses, 13 no. The resolution does not pass. We are moving to adjourn. Thank you very much for your attendance.